Breaking news. There has been a regime change in Gambletown.
It's a coup. Call it a coup. Call it what it is.
Gamblevania, the new republic of Gamblelands. Gambleland is under control with the Fuhrer, Waleed Ismail.
It's
I am
actually
so
Gambley Land.
upset right now. I'm so pissed.
It's Gambley Land with a Y.
It's Gambley Land.
Yes.
Your Fuhrer, your new God King, Waleed Ismail, is running the show now, guys. Hey, welcome to going to Gambley Land. God, I feel like we should have a static name, probably just for the purposes of. I mean, for show promotion, it's going to Gambletown.
Gambleland,
Really,
aka
every week, it's going to be a different version of it, depending on who is in charge of the land.
Well, we can't we can't keep going to the same place because we get there and then we have to go somewhere else. You know.
Waleed, I feel like you're very, very close to your Kanye West on Alex Jones moment right now. I feel like you're flirting with it.
Oh, that was 2 days ago. What are you talking about? I'm there. I am
the Fuhrer of Gambley Land.
I mean, I don't know if you know this, but Beyonce, that was an all-time record. I'm just gonna say it now.
Listen, the factions that want to unify Gambleberg are nipping at your heels. I want you to know that.
You know what? That's fine. My armies are in control. We are taking over the streets.
It is okay. The Count of Gamblevania will be back.
Actually, Gambleyland has its own governmental titles, and I made a conversion chart. So, who was the Count last week? Who was the Count?
Me.
I was the Count. I'm the
If
Fuhrer
you
now.
were
So
the Count in Gambleyland, you're now the Licorice Castle. Okay.
Yes.
Licorice Castle. I think I like the idea of like candy cane lanes and everything over my tyrannical rule because I'm not running this thing in a happy way.
If you were the Fuhrer, you are their equivalent of a Fuhrer, same role but different title. The Fuhrer is called the Rainbow Trail. They do a lot of spin going on in Gambleyland.
But it's Kafka-esque, you know.
I feel like my regime is not being taken seriously. No. I am a very authoritative. That's the word I'm trying to say.
I feel like it might be a one and done. We'll see.
You feel like it should be a one and done. I don't know. I think I'm going to change my bet back because I like the other bet better anyway. But we'll see. I don't know what's going to happen. Guys, welcome to Going to Gambletown. Before we get started, I want to kind of go through last week's results where not only am I the only person who won their millionaire challenge bets of, what was the bet here? Hold on. Trying to pull up where I correctly predicted that Patrick Mahomes would throw for over 288.5 yards because, let's be honest, Patrick Mahomes throws for 300 yards all the time. I'm actually a little nervous this week because he's not. Tony, what was your millionaire challenge bets?
My millionaire challenge bet last week was Joe Burrow over 283.5 passing yards, and he fell 7 yards short.
He was so close. I saw that. I was pulling for you, even though it would have meant that, like, I was... I might not have been able to take over the regime. I still kind of wanted you to win, but I'm also very glad to take over the world.
Well, like, Ryan, what about yours? Ryan was on a streak.
I was on a streak. I was on 4 or 5 in a row. I had the $120-something to put down. But unfortunately, I picked like one out of like the only weeks that Christian Kirk didn't do shit, and it was the Zay Jones show.
Yep. So it was the Zay Jones show. Zay Jones led the NFL in receiving yards last week. So
that is nuts.
Like you just had the wrong receiver, but Zay Jones has been killing it, honestly.
But Ryan, actually, you know what? Let me start.
I was going to do Traylon Burks over, but for some reason at the last minute I put Christian Kirk. I would have hit the Burks.
You would have hit the Burks because Burks was one of your top 5 bets of the week, Ryan.
Yeah,
you were 3-2. Tony was 2-3. I, of course, as the what was my title again, Evan? The
Rainbow Trail.
The Rainbow Trail.
As the Rainbow Trail / Fuhrer of Gambley Lands, I went 4-1. But I would also want to point out too, even though Ryan and I didn't hit either of our parlays, Tony hit both of his.
I hit both.
You
I
hit both. I don't think we've ever had anyone hit 2 parlays in one show. Like,
no, I had a five team money line parlay that hit, and then my same game parlay 49ers and Saints also hit. And it wasn't even in doubt, really. It never really got that close.
No, honestly, I said it last week. I was nervous about that Kamara under, even though I liked the like because the line was just a little bit short. And I think this is something we've talked about. Like when the week before when I took the Kamara under and that hit, he was at like 60.5, and that's right around where like a volume back like Kamara, where I'll feel comfortable taking it under. But at 49.5, even though San Francisco's run defense is really good, I don't feel like I'm getting enough value. But I mean, what did Kamara end up with? I don't even think he got halfway there.
No, I think he ended up with like 29.
But we both had the same bet that we loved, which was that Kittle under too.
Yep, and that hit as well.
Yep. That was one of my top 5 bets of the week. I don't know if that was one of your top 5 bets of the week. It wasn't. Maybe it should have been.
It should have been.
Honestly, you hit the same game parlay with it, so I think you did okay for yourself.
All right. So let's stop worrying about where we came from and let's focus on where we're going.
And where we're going is to a new regime.
So, Mein Führer, do you mind if I start going through the games here?
I'd love it. Let's go.
All right. So our first game of the week, the Jets going to Minnesota. Minnesota are 3-point favorites. A Jets upsets plus 132 on the money line, and the totals are 44.5. Führer, go ahead. Tell us what you got.
I'm going to tell you right now, what I got is I got a lot of rage because there is no Elijah Moore receiving prop here. So because there's not, I'm going to just kind of switch because one of my top 5 bets of the week is coming from this game. I love Elijah Moore this week. I believe the Vikings gave up like the 8th most fantasy points to receivers in the slot. We saw Elijah Moore actually like be effective. He runs the most out of the slot for the Jets, and I think that he's a guy who should have some like good numbers. I also really like Tyler Conklin at over 30.5 receiving yards. Since there is no Elijah Moore bet, what I'm just going to do for the purposes of the show is I'm going to just take an anytime touchdown from him because I think that there's a good chance he gets in the end zone, and I like that price of plus 280. I mean, that's a decent price.
Okay. Minnesota gives up the 5th most fantasy points to slot wide receivers.
Oh, 5th. I thought it was 6th or 7th, but maybe I'm going off of memory. I was looking this up yesterday. I just knew I really liked the numbers, and I especially know that like I can't wait till when his receiving line posts. There's a good chance it's going to be right around 40, maybe under. Smash the Elijah Moore over. That's going to be such a low line. It's going to be one of the best bets of the week. The other thing that I really like here, that Garrett Wilson at 62.5 over receiving yards, Tyler Conklin over 30.5 receiving yards. I'm more indifferent to the Corey Davis 34.5 receiving yards. I don't think he's been getting the targets that those other guys are getting. Granted, Elijah Moore hasn't been, but I just feel like you're going to invest in the younger guy. And supposedly the Jets told him, hey, we are going to try to get you in here while Zach Wilson was doing his thing.
All right.
Ryan. Hold on. I have one more bet I want to talk about here. Kirk Cousins under 250.5 passing yards. Not prime time, so maybe he'll get some yards, but honestly, that Jets pass defense, pretty damn good. So, but now, Ryan, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Ryan.
I should show respect to your Rainbow Bridge. Not Rainbow Bridge. We're not Vikings. We're watching a Vikings game, but I don't know.
All right. You know what my gut's telling me this week about this game?
Ooh.
I'm calling a Jets upset here.
Okay.
I'm taking the Jets over 20.5 points. I'm also taking a Zonovan Knight touchdown.
Okay.
I love that. Is that because you had a Zonovan Knight 2 touchdown bets?
I did originally at plus 7.
Yeah, and I was like, that's what a man does. But then you probably remember that Ty Johnson vultured a touchdown last week.
Right. I think Mike White's gonna ball out this game. I think Sauce Gardner is gonna have a really good defensive game, and it's gonna make Minnesota struggle with the pass game. So I'm calling a Jets upset.
So we got the Zonovan Knight touchdown and the Jets money line. Anything else you got on this game?
And the Jets over 20.5.
Jets over 20.5. I like it.
So for me, I have nothing on this game, but I do want to say when I'm thinking about DFS this week, I really like Justin Jefferson as a pivot because people are going to be on Sauce. People are going to be like, he's been shutting down everybody. Jefferson's not going to do much. Wilson is going to be the most popular play from this game in DFS. And I think when I say that Justin Jefferson is matchup proof, I mean that for quarterback and cornerback. So the problem is his line is, 85.5, and that's way too high. I'm not touching that.
And it's one of the things you'll see, even if when my system likes a guy, when they hit over like 80 yards, I get a lot. I think, I did it with Saquon. I think when he was in that 80 range, I've done it once, but I never feel comfortable about it. Like maybe Derrick Henry against Houston, you'll take that 80, 90 plus yard line. But if they're taking that many yards, unless you're taking an under, you can't do it. You're losing value.
Okay, so let's move on. Let's go to Denver going to Baltimore. Baltimore 9.5 point favorites. Denver upsets plus 320, and the line is a sparse 39.5. That's an Oregon Trail meal ration line right there.
I mean, this is going to be an Oregon Trail kind of game, I think.
So, Ryan, tell us what your gut says, my friend.
The Denver Broncos are about to get diphtheria. And I really don't like this game at all outside of the Ravens winning. And honestly, there's not very many lines. There's only Lamar Jackson passing yards. There's only 2 lines for running. There's only 3 lines for receiving. So I think that just says that Vegas doesn't know a lot about what's going to happen with this game outside of the fact that Baltimore is probably going to win.
Okay. My Fuhrer, Waleed.
On this Oregon Trail game, we got a lot of unders that seem like they should be played.
Okay.
I don't know what accent I'm doing here, but I'm going to keep rolling with it. Lamar Jackson under 197.5 passing yards against that Denver defense. That seems like a solid bet. I'm going to take it.
Okay.
We got Mark Andrews under 58.5 receiving yards. David Duvernay under 24.5 receiving yards. And DeMarcus Robinson under 32.5 receiving yards.
Oh.
Now, there are no Denver receiving totals, which is weird because I would like a Cortland Sutton or Jerry Jeudy over if I could take it, but they don't have any listed. So I can't do anything. Greg Dulcich.
Jeudy might not play.
Huh?
Jeudy might not play.
Well, I mean, even if he shows up, he might not play based on the last couple weeks. So
True.
Gus Edwards over 57.5 rushing yards, also a solid play potentially, but I don't know that I like that line because Denver's defense is delicious.
That was famous prospector Deuce Chiggins.
All right.
Deuce Chiggins here.
Deuce, you got anything else for this one?
No, I think I honestly, as many bets as that likes in the under, I'm not even gonna bet this game because I don't want anything to do with it because it seems like I will die of dysentery while watching this game.
Okay. And Ryan, you already went, right?
Yeah, I already went.
All right, so you can call me the non-binary prospector because I think there's field goals in their hills right here.
Ooh,
so
I love it.
One of my top 5 bets of the week is Baltimore and Denver under a combined total of 4 touchdowns.
Ooh.
Oh, I like that bet. And there are no kicker total props, but I want to point out that the number 2 kicker for the week based on my system is. And sorry, I had to get rid of the prospector. I should have said a character for the entire game, and I forgot. I'm trying to be a professional here. I'm sorry, guys. I'll let you all down. No, but the number 2 kicker for the week, Justin Tucker, based on my system.
Yeah, this is going to be field goal city. So
it's 100%.
Baltimore, as I'm sure super producer Evan Hoovler is aware, Baltimore cannot finish in the red zone.
No, they cannot.
And as anybody who's been forced to watch the Broncos in primetime knows, they also can't finish in the red zone.
Yeah, it's.
So I took the under on total touchdowns in this game. It seemed like a line that seemed a little overpriced. I actually got plus odds on it, which is nice. So let's move on. Let's go to a game that I actually think is going to be one of the more fun ones of the early slate. Underrated funness. You got Pittsburgh going to Atlanta. This game's essentially a toss-up. Pittsburgh are 1-point favorites. Neither team has a positive money line, and the total is 42.5. Waleed, what do you got?
So for this game here, hold on. I went all the way to my kicker metric to look for this. On Pittsburgh, Atlanta here. So a couple things here that really stood out to me. Now, I really like some unders in this game. Kenny Pickett and Marcus Mariota, it seems to like. But I will say this: the last 2 weeks when I've been trying to go for Kenny Pickett unders, I've been getting burned. So it's making me hesitant because the Pittsburgh Steelers are improving, and it's one of the flaws of my system is it's taking data from the year, but there's no way of really because it's still in its beta stage for me to graph from week to week how teams are improving and not improving because teams trend in different directions. Football season is long, and there's a reason like you'll see analysts break it down into quarters. Like this quarter, Steelers are looking interesting, which is why there is a bet here that I do kind of like. George Pickens.
We're done. We're done with the days of Pittsburgh being a sieve on defense.
Yeah. Once TJ Watt came back, you could see a significant improvement. So I'm not sure I'm totally convinced about like teams being able to throw the ball on them. Like it's really funny too because I have this thing where offensively the quarterbacks should suck. Like they're one of the worst passing offenses, but defensively these matchups are supposedly really good. I'm not betting on Marcus Mariota. His line, I would bet the under if I could, but at 164.5, it's too low. I don't get any value. The under 223.5 for Kenny Pickett isn't as bad, but that defense that he's playing is so bad, and frankly, he's been so much better. I don't feel good about it. I'm not gonna take it. But George Pickens over 48.5 receiving yards, that feels like a real good smash play. I also like the Pat Freiermuth over 47.5. But the problem I have with that is the line's a little bit too high for me from a receiving yard standpoint. George Pickens, though, that line looks real tasty. And I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Drake London also over 35.5. I won't bet it, but the line is low enough and the matchup is supposedly good enough. But like we said, Pittsburgh's defense has improved, and Drake London's broken my heart too many times in the second half of the season. I probably can't do it. But these are matchups that are worth eyeing.
Waleed,
okay.
would you state your Pickens bet one more time? I'm putting these on the screen so new viewers can see them.
Oh, awesome.
48.5. The over 48.5.
Thank you.
I am not. I only have a really quick thing. I love Pat Freiermuth this week in DFS, but I like Waleed said. I just want to echo Waleed's sentiment here that 47.5 is just a touch too high of a receiving line for me to be interested in, and so I have nothing in this game. Ryan, what do you got?
No, I'm going to bounce off real quick before we go to Ryan. And this is something that we do talk about a lot here. It's very important to remember, just because you might like a game and might like a bet, you don't have to make a bet on everything. It's very important when you're gambling to be selective about what you're doing. I've noticed the best successes I've had is when I just parse it down to the bets that I like the most and try not to just get it cluttered. I mean, if you're not getting a good value, don't take it. Like Vegas is trying to take your money. Don't let them. This is it's our job to beat them. And as Fuhrer, we are going to take Vegas by storm.
Pitfighter 2 boos that, and it lets me know that apparently our soundboard is down. I'm going to take a moment to get that back up. Pitfighter, thanks for the boo.
Ryan, what do you got?
I really like this game. I'm actually taking Falcons win. I like the Falcons to score more than 20.5 points. I will bet that Waleed and I were talking about earlier in pre-production was the Cordero Patterson over of 7.5 yards at minus 120.
Receiving,
receiving.
Yeah. That's a pass. That's one pass.
That's one pass. Yeah, I think I'm going to take that. I do like Drake London. I will bet the over this week, 35.5. That's one of my top 5 bets. Other than that, I feel like this is going to be an Atlanta game. I know Pittsburgh has been rolling as of late. Pickens has got some chemistry, but they're still the Steelers, and they're playing in Atlanta. So I like Atlanta this week.
So I keep looking at that, and I kind of wonder, there's got to be something because 7.5 is so low. So I'm pulling up defensive matchups, receiving yards against receivers for the Steelers.
You mean against running backs?
Against running backs, yeah. Like how many receiving yards they give up. And the thing that's killing me about it is they get an average amount of receiving yards. It's not like the Bucs. Like you can't throw to a running back on the who's playing the Bucs. Like if you're playing the Bucs and you're a running back, you're not going to get receiving yards. They're the best at defending that. but Steelers are middle of the pack. So 7.5, even at minus 120, I'm probably throwing a big bet there because maybe they're tricking me, and if they are, good on you. But honestly, I think more times than not, that bet's going to have a very nice return.
Soundboard back up.
All right.
All right. And I want to be clear. Hassan, Pit Fighter, was saying Boo earns.
All right. So we're going to need to spend probably 10 to 15 minutes on this next game. Jacksonville going to Detroit. This is also a toss-up here with Detroit being 1-point favorites. Teams having the exact same odds on the money line, and then a total of 51.5. Waleed, keep it rolling.
I just love so much about this game, but the thing that I love the most about this game is Christian Kirk. Let's just get right to it. The over 65.5. It's one of my top 5 bets of the week. And honestly, I feel so good about Christian Kirk. My millionaire bet of the week is going to be an adjusted money line. I think Christian Kirk isn't just going to go for 65.5. I don't think he's going to go for plus 70. I don't think he's going to go for plus 80. I don't think he's going to go for plus 90. Okay. I am going Christian Kirk as Führer. I'm not just going for a little double up bet here. I'm going plus 320 Christian Kirk receiving yards. He's going to have over 100 receiving yards at plus 320. That bet here going to be, let me see, what is it, 1877? I want to show you guys the exact total here on the screen so you can see it. So that $18.77 is going to pay me off $60.60. And the reason I like this bet is because nobody gives up more fantasy points to receivers in the slots than the Detroit Lions.
That's
and
true.
Nobody lines up in the slot more than Christian Kirk. Like that is that is just a stoppable force moving against a movable object. Because it's just going to blow up, and it's going to blow up hard for me. This bet is so fucking good. I mean, you get matchups like this like a few times a year as far as I'm concerned. And I have so many different alternate props on Christian Kirk this week because there's so much value here. And not just here, like for all of the receivers here. I don't just like Christian Kirk this week. Marvin Jones at 31.5. I might throw something under. Evan Ingram's got a great matchup at 28.5 over on receiving yards. Zay Jones 48.5. That's a little bit high for me this week. I might fade him just because I'm throwing so much on Christian Kirk, and I don't want to go into too many different directions because Christian Kirk is going to be the beneficiary here. But I think Evan Ingram's the other bet I might take an over on here. On top of that, here I also have pulling up my data here. So yeah, let's look at the passing yards here too. Trevor Lawrence over 247.5 passing yards. Trevor Lawrence has been killing it the last few weeks, and I feel like we haven't all been paying attention. But
one of us has.
What'd you say?
One of us has. His name's Ryan.
Yeah, that is true. Ryan got on Trevor Lawrence before the rest of us. We're finally catching up to him. And maybe if he had been a better count, like he would still be in charge here. If he had gotten that Trevor Lawrence information to the people, you would still be running the show. But the Rainbow Road Führer here is telling you Trevor Lawrence. And I'm going to pretend that Ryan never had that idea. It was all me because that's what you do when you're in charge. Okay. I was on Trevor Lawrence before everyone else, especially Ryan Edgecombe.
Revisionist history. All right.
Yeah. Ryan. No, I control the school books here in Gambley Town. All right.
That's true. All right, Ryan. What do you got?
One last bet. Travis Etienne over 63.5 rushing yards.
Okay.
Now, this is obviously contingent. We want to make sure he's playing. All signs point to him being cleared. And supposedly he could have played last week, which only makes me and Tony and Ryan so much angrier. Because we were all on Travis Etienne last week, and then he gets hurt early, and then JaMychal Hasty just goes off, which means we were right. All our research said this was a great matchup, but we got none of the benefits.
Yeah, it was JaMychal Hasty and Zay Jones. Zay Jones and JaMychal Hasty. It was horrible.
It was awful.
Ryan, what do you got?
So this week, this is going to be America's game of the week, I think. Outside of that Kansas City game.
I agree. Everyone's waiting for Jacksonville and Detroit's.
Yep. So I got a bunch of stuff on this game. two of my top 5 bets of the week. Jacksonville, Detroit. I'm taking that over at 51.5. I'm taking a Jamal Williams anytime touchdown. In fact, I'm going to parlay that into my millionaire bet and try to get back on track to becoming the count. And I'm going to take Jamal Williams for 2 touchdowns this week.
Okay.
At plus
I love that our
420.
millionaire bets are both facing off in this game here.
Yeah. This game also has my same game parlay. I'm going with Waleed. I'm taking Lawrence over 247.5. I'm taking a Jamal Williams anytime touchdown. I'm taking a Christian Kirk anytime touchdown. And I'm taking Kirk's over at, what was it, 64.5?
Christian Kirk was 65.5.
65.5. I wrote it wrong. I wrote 65.4. I was like, what the hell?
And I'd like to take a second to welcome Brian to the chat. Brian says,
Hey, Brian.
Earl of Gambletown. Yes, we are in Gambley land this week, though. So the
Yeah, it's
Earl,
Gambley land.
The Earl converts to the Gumdrop Mountains. So there's the Gumdrop Mountains of Gambley land. Nailed it. All right. Thank you. Back
I
to
like
you.
that the
Alright.
titles are just like geographical locations.
Ryan, is that it for you?
So that was my same game parlay that I put 5 units down at plus 713 to pay out 35 and some change.
Okay.
I also like the overs on both teams. Right now you have Jaguars at 25.5 and you've got the Lions at 26.5.
Okay.
But if you
Yeah.
think Jaguars are going to win, I might bet the under on the Lions at 26.5. But
And like I actually kind of want to take a quick look here because I'm curious what are some of the
Well,
weekly
while
specials here.
While you're taking a quick look,
Yeah.
let me do mine, please. I'm gonna do. This is actually 2 of my top 5 bets of the week are in this game. Jacksonville and Detroit going over 51.5, and Christian Kirk over 5.5 receptions. So we're all in on Kirk. And I found this really cool stat that I wanted to say. I said it on the podcast, which is dropping today into your feeds. This is the 3rd time this year that the Lions are favored in a game. And the other 2 games average 78 combined points.
damn.
In all games this year that Detroit plays in, the total points scored at the average is 54.8 points.
That
I'm
is
smashing
ridiculous.
that over.
That is ridiculous.
So on that note, I'm going to throw this other bet out here because we were talking about that, and I'm glad I looked. You can see it on the screen. High scoring game of the week: Jags at Lions at plus 500. That's a great investment, and I'm throwing $5 on that because like there is a very good chance, like especially with all the information that Tony just said, getting 5-1. Like I feel like we're going to be right at least half the time on this.
Where was
Right.
that, Waleed? Weekly specials?
Weekly specials, highest scoring game, Sunday only, plus 500, Jags versus Lions.
All right, I'm gonna do that too.
Yeah, that's an interesting bet there.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's move on. Let's go on to a game that I actually think might be the highest scoring game of the week. Tennessee going to Philadelphia. Eagles are 4.5 point favorites. Tennessee upsets plus 180, and the line is 44.5. So I'm gonna start on this one because fuck you guys, my friends.
Respect the future.
Oh shit, I missed one of my top 5 bets earlier. Anyways, let's go on. This
Say
game
it.
has
Say
my
it when
millionaire
you get a
challenge
chance.
bet of the week.
Say it when you get a chance
What's up?
sometime so I can put it on the screen. Sorry to catch
Okay.
up. But
When we go to the near, yeah, my one of them was adjusted. So Pittsburgh minus 2.5.
thank you.
The
So-
adjusted line, yeah.
So my millionaire bet this week is I'm betting on my guy. I'm betting on my fucking guy here. I'm going AJ Brown over 80.5 receiving yards because we were talking about this off air and on air slightly. 80.5 is going to be pretty much my ceiling here in terms of yardage props I'm comfortable betting overs on. So this
Tony's
is a
ceiling is anything with AJ Brown. He'll just take the over,
And
whatever that
look,
line is.
that's my fucking dude. All right. So you're telling
Yeah.
me in a revenge game against the team that traded him that I'm not gonna put money on him getting over 80.5 receiving yards? Come on, get out of here.
That is
So-
true. I love AJ Brown this week.
I
So
want to point. Yeah. Oh, I'll get to when I get to me.
Okay.
You talk. Right.
So this game is also my same game parlay of the week. I'm going with the Philadelphia money line. I'm taking the Hurts over at 225.5 because Jalen Hurts. This is a pass funnel defense, y'all. They want people to pass. They are bottom 3 in schedule adjusted fantasy points to wide receivers. So I have Hurts over 225.5, Devontae Smith over 59.5 receiving yards. Did you know that Devontae Smith has the 9th highest target share in the NFL in the last month? 28.6%.
What?
And I threw an AJ Brown anytime touchdown in there as well. So my 2 units for at plus 774 would bring me back 1749. So Ryan, tell me what you got for this one.
I didn't have too much on this game because I think this game's going to be pretty close, actually. I don't think Philadelphia is going to blow out Tennessee. I do love AJ Brown. I have AJ Brown in like DFS and regular redraft. I love Tony's betting the over this week. I think there might be a chance too that Tennessee could potentially win this game. But
I took him in my article for the Football Absurdity website. I took him as an upset.
That's right. Yeah, you did. But other than that, I didn't really have too many bets on this game.
Okay, Waleed?
Unlike, I'm 100% with Tony. This is the game that I have the most action on here. 2 of my top 5 bets of the week are in this game. My same game parlay is in this game. And yeah, Tony, I'm going to say I really like your chances of winning your millionaire bet of AJ Brown over 80.5 receiving yards. And you know why I think that? Because it's one of my top 5 bets of the week. I'm going to point out some stuff for you guys here. The Tennessee Titans gave up the 3rd most touchdowns to wide receivers. They gave up the 6th most yards to wide receivers. So I also they are the number 1 receiver matchup based on my system for the week. Obviously, this is for the year, but it hasn't been slowing down. So AJ Brown over 80.5 receiving yards, Jalen Hurts over 225.5 passing yards are 2 of my top 5 bets of the week. I usually try to not keep them in the same game, but this game is such a clearly good matchup. My same game parlay is that AJ Brown over 80.5, Jalen Hurts over 225, and an AJ Brown anytime touchdown. And I'm also going with, and I'm actually deviating from my system of Treylon Burks because it says I should take the under on those receivers, but I kind of agree that Titans are going to do a lot better than people think. I mean, the Titans don't feel like they're one of the better teams in football, but they are, and they have been consistently. Their pass defense is suspect, but they run the ball, like they keep games close. They know how to win games. And Treylon Burks, the over at 43.5, that line is too low considering what his target share has been and like the track record for rookies in that last quarter of the season. I really think that same game parlay, which is giving me, I'm putting 5 units on it at plus 842 to give me $42.12 get paid off here. Like this game. This game is really fun. I also want to kind of go through my system because there's a couple other things. The Ryan Tannehill under at 206.5, I do kind of like here. I don't know that it's going to be a huge passing game, but I won't make this bet because I'm also not sure. And Tannehill's actually been getting yards the last few weeks, so I feel like this is a risky bet. And Devonta Smith over 59.5 passing yards or receiving yards. I'm sorry.
Every time I think Devonta Smith is a player that Vegas is not putting good lines on.
Yeah,
I think
they've put them pretty low.
Slow. They've been slow. So
especially with Goddard out, like he's the very clear number 2 receiving option on that team against the matchup that's going to pass to wide receivers and have opportunities. Like I do like the Devonta Smith line, but to me this is AJ Brown's been like down the last few weeks too, which is another reason why I like him this week because the matchup is so good, and AJ Brown, he's due for that breakout game, and this just feels like it. After Christian Kirk, AJ Brown is my favorite play of the week, like DFS, gambling, everything.
Okay.
And you know what, guys? I'm an idiot too, because one of my top 5 bets of the week is from this game. And I don't know if you guys talked about it yet. I'm pretty sure you didn't.
We did not, and I can see it.
But the Jalen Hurts rushing over at 48.5, I really like that.
See, I find that 48.5. I mean, Jalen Hurts rushing over always feels like it's going to be a fairly safe bet, but I'm kind of curious because I kind of feel like the Titans are not easy to run on, but I want to look. It's average.
Not for
Yeah,
They're not.
not for
They're not.
quarterbacks.
quarterbacks.
They're not. But I feel like there's going to be a bunch of situations where he's going to have to scramble because their rushing defense is better than their passing defense.
Yeah, no, I get what you're
So-
saying. And also, I don't think you can look at stuff like that when it comes to players like Lamar, Hurts, or Justin Fields.
Yeah,
Well,
that's true.
what you can look at is the fact that Jalen Hurts averages 54 yards rushing a game. Tennessee allows 16 quarterback rushing yards a game, but Jalen Hurts scrambles at the fourth highest rate in the league
Right.
at 8.5%.
Is Justin
All right.
Fields number one in that?
Yes,
just
he
by
is.
virtue of always running for his life?
You want to hear the rest of the list?
I would love to hear the rest of the list.
All right, we're going to do it reverse order.
Love it.
Josh Allen is fifth with an 8.3% scramble. Jalen Hurts, 8.5, comes in at number 4. Number 3 is Daniel Jones, 9.6% scramble. Number 2, Bryce Perkins in his limited action as the Rams quarterback is number 2 at 13%. And
Okay.
coming in, and that's only 1.5 games. So Justin Fields is your number 1 scrambling quarterback. He scrambles on 16.5% of dropbacks.
Yeah. And it feels like that number actually should be higher if you watch the Bears
So
offensive line.
So that's 7% higher than any quarterback that's played more than 2 games.
Yeah. Bears draft and sign offensive linemen this offseason, please, for the love of God. I don't want Justin Fields to die.
Please. All right, there he is. Hail. All right, so let's move on. Let's go to Cleveland going to Houston. Houston are 7.5 point dogs. Houston upsets plus 300. The total's 46.5. Ryan, before you start, I just want to remind people that Deshaun Watson's a terrible human being. Go ahead.
Right. So the only bet that I have for this game is the under on Deshaun Watson passing yards. I'm betting it on principle, just because of that.
That's what I love to
and
hear.
it's really tough to get behind someone who hasn't played in an NFL game in 2 years. So, I don't understand why that line is so high. I get it. He's got a couple weapons, but he's not going to have that chemistry right off the bat. And like Tony said, he's a fucking asshole. So that's the only bet I want on.
Easy to root against.
Yeah.
Well, and here's the thing. The reason why I would also say it's not that bad a bet is people don't really pass on Houston because they don't need to.
You don't need
because
to. Yeah.
they're I like it. It's you got principles, but also the matchup works for this too. It's not like it's just like a principle bet. Houston is the worst run defense in the NFL by far.
If Nick Chubb doesn't get over 100 yards, I'm going to be shocked.
Yeah, and honestly, one of my top 5 bets of the week, I'm not taking the Nick Chubb line, because 95.5, like we said, it's too high. And even though it's Houston, I'd like to, but the problem is I've seen Stefanski just be stupid too often when it comes to how many times have they put the running backs, rushed them under 20 yards a game, even though you have a guy who started off the season as the best running back in football, who was rushing at a great clip, and you just abandoned the run so quickly. But the Kareem Hunt over 31.5, considering I think this game is going to get out of hand for Houston, because let's be honest, Houston is awful. They are a terrible football team. I think just garbage time, Kareem Hunt has a very good chance, and this matchup is so good, and that line is so low.
And I didn't understand Lovey's deviation to Allen. I mean, Mills clearly better than Allen, but
but Mills is they're losing, and you have to do something to hopefully get a spark, and that is, and unfortunately, that spark is more like a Tinder that's just setting the Houston Texans franchise on fire.
And every single person in this call knows how good Lovie Smith is historically at scouting quarterbacks.
Yeah.
This is true. We all know that the Bears have a long and storied tradition of quarterback evaluation, second only to Cleveland, actually.
And Lovey's part of that, so I'm not surprised. So I have nothing in this game. I'm not interested. Let's move on.
Hey, I'll tell you what, sex cannon Rex Grossman was a master quarterback, and I will never hear anything otherwise. One thing I will say, Nico Collins under 52.5 passing yards is another solid play that my system likes. I don't know that I'll bet it because this game feels like it could get out of hand, and you can get that in garbage time.
If Houston had any pass game, this game might be interesting.
Yeah. Oh, you know what? Also, Kyle Allen. His passing line is 208.5. So taking that under seems like it could be like a solid play. But last week he had over 200 yards based on the fact that Miami got ahead so quickly, so early. The last two teams, like from a fantasy football standpoint, the last two teams that have played the Houston Texans, the Cleveland Browns, like they were the number one fantasy defense.
Right.
So I find it very hard to touch anything on the Houston side because garbage time, there's a big mess. But yeah, so even though those unders look promising, garbage time will exist where they won't get points, but they might put up yards, and it's not worth the risk.
Okay. All right, let's move on. We're going Washington, going to the Giants. Washington are 1.5 point favorites. A Giants upsets plus 108, and the total's 40.5. Wally, keep it going.
I'll say keep it going. I have zero things. My system doesn't give a shit about this game, and
Okay.
neither do I. The
Ryan?
one thing is, I did read. I think I know Tony had something. I think on. Did you have this in your article too?
Yeah.
This game. Okay,
Yep.
because that's a bet I'm going to make on my own because you convinced me.
I'll get there. Ryan, go ahead.
Guys, guess who's most likely gonna play tomorrow?
Oh, shit.
Uh-oh.
He's back from getting his eye ripped out of his head. Mr.
DFS for cheapskates, darling.
Mr. Cody Bellinger. All right,
Cody
before he
Bellinger.
got injured.
Cody Bellinger?
Yeah.
Daniel Bellinger. How would you
Dan
do
Bellinger.
Sorry,
Give
Daniel
respect.
Bellinger.
Man, he's been gone so long you forgot his name.
Yep.
Ryan. As
But-
Führer, I'm very disappointed in you.
No, he couldn't be named David. I see
He
what
could-
Ryan
You're
did
gonna-
there.
We're gonna have to put him. We're gonna have to put in a re-education program for Ryan to
Sorry.
make sure. It's just gonna
Sorry,
be like a Clockwork Orange. We're gonna have
Sorry, I
his eyes
didn't-
open, and it's just gonna be Daniel Bellinger film getting his eye poked out.
As I
Sorry,
see
I
it,
did
as I
this-
see it, he can't be called Daniel Bellinger because that has an eye. So I would be Cody.
Daniel Bellinger.
You see, I did this yesterday too on the podcast. Like when my edible kick in, I forget like the players' first names.
He did
Yeah.
do that.
I blanked on Aaron Jones' first name yesterday during the podcast, and there was like a solid like 5 seconds of dead air.
In my head, it's Aaron. Is what he just ended up saying.
So I edited it to put in the Vikings air horn in that moment.
Hell yeah. But anyway, so I like his touchdown potential at plus 500. And other than that, I maybe will put some money down on Jahan Dotson getting like 2 catches. His over is at 20.5.
Yeah.
Probably gonna stay away from any of the other receiving lines, but I don't know what's Daniel Jones. He doesn't have. Does he have a rushing over?
He doesn't have a
No,
rushing prop
no,
yet.
he
No.
doesn't. Yeah, nothing yet.
He's
But yeah.
been very inconsistent with his rushing props, which is weird considering how
Right.
much he actually has from a rushing standpoint. Like, and I want to point out, Brian, like, the reason why Brian Dable should probably win Coach of the Year is because Daniel Jones has been respectable this year, and we've all been waiting for those wheels to fall off, and they haven't.
Yeah,
And
right.
at this point in the season, the fact that we have 12 weeks of Daniel Jones being somewhat competent is one of the most impressive things I think I've seen coaching wise this year.
It's true. All right. So in this one, I don't have any straight up like hardcore prop lines, anything like that. I did in my article for Football Absurdity, I took the Giants to win because I have no clue why all of a sudden they're being disrespected. Like we all said they weren't a great team, and then they continued to win no matter what.
Yeah,
They had a
right.
couple of tough weeks here from a matchup standpoint.
And I don't think Washington is a tough matchup. So I took them to win, the Giants to win outright on the money line because they got plus odds. All right, let's move on. This game sucks. Let's move on to another game that would suck and we wouldn't be interested in if our parents didn't raise us where we were raised.
Yeah.
Green Bay going to Chicago.
Our parents let us down, is what we're saying.
Green Bay are 3.5 point favorites. A Bears upsets plus 158, and the total's 44.5. Waleed, Ryan, what do you got?
I like Christian Watson in this game. He's just continuing to roll. They're playing the Bears, and as we can see from last week, even crap teams can do good against the Bears. I like Watson's over at 48.5. I like him even for a touchdown. And have we confirmed that Fields is for sure playing?
Yes.
He's off the injury report. Like, I don't think anyone has announced anything, but the fact that he's practicing in full and he's off the injury report, it would be weird if he didn't play.
Yeah, I might bet his rushing yards then. It's only at 66.5. It's down about 5 yards from the last game he played. So
especially because sorry, you know what? Keep going.
No, it's all right. I want to say the last 2 weeks ago when he played, the line was in at 73.5. By the time the game started, I think it was at 71. So it's down.
Yeah.
But I think Fields will get some good scrambles. But other than that, I don't have too much in this game.
I did a sleeper parlay that was Justin Tucker over 8.5 kicking points, Christian Kirk over 15.5 fantasy points in full PPR, and Justin Fields over 69.5 rushing yards.
And I want to point out that parlay is things that I've already vocally said are some of my favorite plays of the week. I said Justin Tucker is the number 2 kicker. We all know how I feel about Christian Kirk. That's my millionaire bet. And I think if you've watched the show, you have a pretty good idea how I feel about Justin Fields.
So
it's a solid play.
I got a couple, like one more thing here. We're going to talk about him in DFS, but I took Christian Watson's adjusted receiving money line. I took it at 50 or more so I could get plus odds on it.
Like it.
Listen, you guys, if you don't know this, the Bears have 3 starting secondary players that are not going to be playing this. No, 4 actually. So the only guy that's starting that's a regular starter is Jalen Johnson. Now the Bears can't get a pass rush. I think Lazard.
They traded away their 2 best players too. Like, this defense has been on steady decline.
And their 3rd best defensive player is now out for the year with a Lisfranc injury. This looks like a smash week. I love both Aaron Jones and Christian Watson, but from a gambling standpoint, I'm taking Christian Watson adjusted receiving yard line at 50 plus.
Yeah, I'm going to say, like, going purely on my system here, there are 3 plays that really stand out. Well, there's a lot of plays that stand out, but the problem is, like, what we've talked about with lines. Like, Cole Kmet under 29.5, especially with Justin Fields back, I can't even look at that line. That line is too low to take the under. And frankly, with no Darnell Mooney, I think Cole Kmet is the clear number 1 receiver there. So that over might actually be a very sneaky good play. But I don't want to touch any receiving props on this game because the Packers' pass defense is one of the few things they're doing right. You got Chase Claypool 30.5 under. I'm not taking these unders. The David Montgomery over 14.5 receiving yards, though, is really interesting because they do a lot of screens and dump offs, and David Montgomery is really good in the passing game. So I'm kind of eyeing that, and I might do something on the side with that later because 14.5 is really low. Montgomery, especially with no Khalil Herbert, I feel like he's good for 20 yards a game easily, and maybe more because he gets those yards after the catch. Like, he's hard to bring down. But the real money in this game. The passing under for Justin Fields, I will never bet an under on Justin Fields. And you want to know why? Because I won't bet against him. He's going to eventually have that big passing game. And there's a part of me that, and I always feel it's going to be this coming week because he only keeps leveling up. But I will take what I think the real value of this game is the Packers' run defense is trash. So David Montgomery over 66.5 rushing yards and Justin Fields over 66.5 rushing yards. Look, we know what the Bears are going to do. They're going to try to run the ball. And we know what the Packers are going to do. They're going to let teams run the football on them. So, like, it's a match made in heaven. You know it's what the Bears want to do, and we know it's what the Packers can't stop. The David Montgomery and Justin Fields rushing overs are 2 really strong plays.
Okay. All right, let's move on. Let's go to our next game of the week. We are going Seattle and the Rams. This will be a fun one. Seattle are 7-point favorites on the defending Super Bowl champs. Los Angeles is a plus 260 money line. The total's 40.5. Waleed, keep it going.
I'm kind of sad there's no rushing prop for the Raiders, or for not the Raiders, the Rams. And there needs to be because the Rams, the matchup here for Seattle, they're not a good run defense, but the Rams aren't a good rushing team, so I'm not sure how I feel. But if I can get like over 25. Like, I don't know what the total will be for Kyron Williams or Cam Akers, but if it's in that 25 to 30 range, I'll kind of keep an eye on it. But really, this game looks like it would suck. I'm also interested. I would also have been interested in a Tyler Higbee like receiving prop. The problem is that the problem is the quarterback is who the hell is the quarterback? It only has Geno Smith, not
John Walford.
yeah, Walford. And I should know that
Walford.
because of if you guys haven't seen the title to my defensive streamer article, Scoreless in Seattle, because the Rams give up the most fantasy points to opposing defenses. Jeff Crisco is an artist.
Yeah,
Like, it is one of the funniest things I've ever seen.
Okay. So Ryan, go ahead.
I think this is going to be a blowout, maybe potentially. I don't know if the Rams are going to be able to score a lot of points, but I like the overs on Kenneth Walker, 72.5. One of my top 5 bets of the week is DK at over 63.5.
Guys, sorry, I just put it on the screen so you guys can see, because look at this. Jeff is fantastic.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
It's so good. Yeah, give that up there for a second for you guys to appreciate the work Jeff does to come up with my dumb movie theme ideas for defensive streamer articles. That is a man who's going to get sacked a lot.
All right, Ryan, what do you got?
Anything else? Yeah, so Kenny Walker, DK Metcalf, I'm taking their overs. I might even put some money down on Geno Smith's over 247.5. That seems a little low for how well Seattle's been doing this year.
Okay.
I like those.
Okay. I have nothing in this game. I want no part of it. All right, moving on. We're finally going to our afternoon games. We have a Mike McDaniel revenge game. Miami going to San Francisco. San Francisco 3.5 point favorites. Money line plus 168, and the line is 45.5. Go ahead, Ryan.
This week I got a feeling about this game. I feel like it's gonna be a Miami upset.
You know what? I'm glad you said that, because I kind of feel it too. Like, if there's anyone who knows how the 49ers offense and defense runs, it is Mike McDaniels. And he has shown himself to be a very creative play caller and great at exploiting the weaknesses of and taking advantage of teams. So I've kind of been feeling that too here.
And with that 1-2 punch with Tua and Waddle, it's gonna be.
You mean Reek?
Or Tua, Waddle, and Reek. Yeah. It's just gonna be. I feel like Tua's gonna have over 300 yards. Tyreek might have one of his best games of the year. Waddle's gonna get in there. I think San Francisco might struggle to keep up with the high-paced offense. And like you said, if anyone knows how to play San Francisco, it's McDaniel. So,
you know what Mike McDaniel knows for sure? He knows for sure that the 49ers run zone at the highest percentage of the league, and I'm sure he also knows that Tua is one of the best passers in the league against cover 3.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. And isn't that that's like one of the worst things too? Like, Tyreek Hill against zone is Tyreek Hill having really good fucking games. You can't just.
I mean, it is a high over for Tyreek at 92.5, but I still think I'm going to take it.
I don't know that I'm going to take it because like I said, that line is too high, but I do think I want him in DFS.
Yeah. I mean, even bet over on Waddle. Waddle's kind of low, 64.5.
Waddle's always too low. Like, he hits his. I feel like he hits his overs a lot more than Reek does sometimes. That's not true. Reek's leading the lead in receiving. So
another player I do like in DFS this week too is Ayuk. His overs at 58.5. He's been doing really good in San Francisco this year. He's having
been doing work.
He's having the exact opposite year that he was supposed to have last year.
Yeah, it's
true. Welcome to the chat, Deku. Good to see you.
That's what I got.
Yeah.
What's going on, Deku?
The homie. All right, Waleed, what do you got?
Honestly, like, my system likes some unders on this game from a rushing standpoint. We don't have Jeff Wilson or Raheem Mostert unders yet, but I don't really care what those lines are. I'm probably not touching them because the totals are going to be too low. Even though I do think it's going to be a receiving game, a passing game more than anything. And then Mike Gesicki, the under would if it was the line wasn't 21.5, I'd be looking at this under a lot harder. And honestly, it still might not be a bad line because Gesicki doesn't really get yards, but he does get touchdowns in this offense.
Right.
Like, they use him. So it might not be bad, but at the same time, I'm not getting any real value here. So why would I make that bet?
Exactly. I started Gasecki last week in my big money league and got 0 points.
Yeah.
So,
Like the only thing I'm really maybe looking at here is that Dolphins money line.
okay. I took the Dolphins money line in my article for Football Absurdity. So let's move on to a game that might also, we got some heaters to talk about here, boys. Chargers going to the Raiders. The Raiders are 2.5 point favorites. The Chargers money line wins plus 116, and the total's 49.5. Waleed, what do you got?
I have a couple of things here. I want to talk about a man this is me. You don't get to just be Fuhrer by having a hostile takeover and winning a millionaire bet. You also do it by being right. And I want to point out that I was one of the few people who was on Josh Jacobs at the beginning of the year before the season. I think people forgot that he's been hurt the last couple of years. He had John Gruden like holding him back going into a contract year, a guy who was a first round talent with a lot of athleticism. And this man is the number one running back in football right now. Josh Jacobs, having said all that, because the line is 92.5, even though this matchup is so tasty, and because of that calf injury, I can't take this over. I'm playing him in DFS, but Josh Jacobs has got a fantastic matchup. On the flip side of that, Austin Eckler at 47.5. But the under here is honestly a solid play, regardless of matchup. Eckler's getting his yards into receiving game, not into rushing game. This isn't the best matchup for him. And the big one that I really like. Well, actually, this one isn't. This isn't the big one I like. Gerald Everett over 32.5. This is a good matchup for him. We'll probably take that over. I'll throw $1 on it, maybe two. I'm not like going hard at it, but he's also been kind of inconsistent, so it makes me hesitant. But Justin Herbert has been doing pretty damn well. 292.5 over on passing yards. Oh, you know what? I like this bet a lot. This is a really, really, really good matchup for Justin Herbert's. But I don't know, like the only guy I'll like when it's over 270 or higher, 280, the only quarterback I feel comfortable taking the over on is Patrick Mahomes. And the reason for that is because he's Patrick fucking Mahomes, and the Chiefs are the most efficient offense in football. So I don't know. The over for Herbert is interesting. I like it, but I don't know if this is biggest smash plays. The more I look at it, the more I'm kind of getting nervous about it, especially because of the way that offense is catered for more dink and dunk passes. They don't really like Joe Lombardi. I don't understand why you're like, you know what? We got this awesome arm in Justin Herbert. Let's get Joe Lombardi as the offensive coordinator in a dink and dunk offense. Like understanding your personnel when you're putting a staff together is really important.
Uh-huh. All right, Ryan, what do you got?
I don't have too much on this game. One thing I do like in correlation at Herbert's lines 292.5 or something like that. I will not bet that, like Wally's saying. That's pretty up there. I'm only going to bet Mahomes with that. But the total points for the Chargers is only at 23.5. So I like that, and it's at minus 120. So there's more juice on that. I do like the over at 23.5. One player I do like for the Raiders this week, Mac Hollins, over 42.5.
Oh.
See that?
Yeah, and I might even put some money down on Josh Jacobs receiving at over 24.5.
Okay.
And Eckler too. I like his line at 46.5. Like Wally said, that's where he's getting all his production from receiving. So
I kind of find it fascinating that the Chargers are the underdog and getting the money line bet here because like if there's a team that's more likely to implode here, I feel like it's the Raiders. Like I feel like there's some value in that Chargers money line.
Do you know that Austin Eckler is 4th in the league in receptions?
Really? I mean, I did say Eckler's getting his yards in receiving, so it does not surprise me in the slightest.
Okay, I got a couple things here I want to say. I don't have any actual bets in this game, but my numbers love this game. Yeah. And I'm eyeing the over at 49.5, and I'll tell you why. The combined points in Chargers games this year have been 48.6. And the combined points scored in games where Las Vegas is playing is 49.2. So both of these teams give up a ton of points.
So both of those are under 49.5. We should be taking the under, right? Okay.
No, we should be taking the over because
I'm being sarcastic. I know.
You
I'm
better
just
be.
messing around.
So, all right. Since Bosa went out with an injury, let me tell you, these are the yardage numbers that the Chargers have allowed to opposing running backs. 131, 131, 213, 98, 213, 201, 157, 163, 181.
I think what I just heard there is I should trust my Jacobs line, which is like the number 3 bet, I think, for running backs on the week, and maybe not worry about the fact that it's only 92.5 because good God.
It's tough to want to bet against. I want to bet on against it just because.
Yeah.
But like Josh Jacobs is going to be the most rostered player in DFS this week, like by far.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter. Like here's the thing I always like when you look at that. Roster values only matter when you're wrong about the player. If you have a guy who's rostered a lot, but he's also the best at his position, doesn't really matter. You got the most points. That's what your goal has to be.
But I am saying that I think a player like Aaron Jones this week or Travis Etienne this week could score as many points as Josh Jacobs, and
you'll get him at a better price. No, I agree. Right. I want some. I'm just saying. Like I'll tell you right now, I want some Josh Jacobs exposure. Well, it's a spoiler alert, but I also don't know that I want as much as I want on some other guys.
Okay. All right. So let's go on. Let's go to Kansas City and Cincinnati. Kansas City are road favorites, 2.5 points. Bengals upsets plus 112 on the money line. The total is 52.5. I'm going to go first, and I'm going to say this game is going to be a shootout, and I feel like I subconsciously pivoted from it in gambling bets because I want to kind of avoid it in DFS too because it's going to be so high owned. Like Cincinnati and Cleveland over the last month are numbers 1 and 2 in pass rate over expected.
Hell yeah.
Like
you said Cincinnati and who?
And Kansas City are numbers 1 and 2.
Okay. For some reason, I thought I heard Cleveland there, and I got confused. My bad.
So they are just chucking the ball all around the field. And so I want no part of it because I think both of these teams can blow up in so many different ways. But they also, remember, they played in the AFC Championship, and the final score was like 17-10 or some shit like that.
Yeah. Here's the thing, too. And I want to point out something real quick. The Cincinnati money line is a really interesting play here because the Bengals have won the last 2 matchups. Like, the Bengals play the Chiefs fairly well. I don't know that that's going to happen this time, but I don't think it's something that should be overlooked. I think there's some value there. I haven't decided if I'm going to take that Bengals money line, but I am looking at it, and I get it because it's kind of hard to bet against the Chiefs right now. The Chiefs are the most efficient passing offense in football. I think they're the most efficient offense in football. So it's kind of hard to just be like, oh, I'm going to bet against that. No, the best offense tends to win. There's a reason the Chiefs do they have the best record in football? I mean, they do in the AFC for sure, but I think
them in Philly.
Yeah, them in Philly. But the Chiefs also are doing it in a much harder division. The Chiefs are the best team in football right now, so it is hard to bet against them. I do kind of want to point out here, I do have bets here, and I guess I'm just going to make it my turn here since I just started talking about it here. Patrick Mahomes over 302.5 passing yards. I just want to point out over his last 6 weeks, he's cracked 300 yards. Like every time I've had a lot of millionaire bets on the Patrick Mahomes passing over, and I will probably keep betting that until Patrick Mahomes lets me down. And I don't see a future where Patrick Mahomes lets me down consistently. He's the best quarterback in football. I mean, I guess Josh Allen's kind of close, but I think he's the best passing quarterback in football is what I'll say, because Mahomes or Allen brings a lot more to the table, and eventually Justin Fields is going to take over. We all know it. Let's just accept it. The Joe Burrow over 292.5. I like that too because this matchup. I mean, the Chiefs. Good God, they give up so many. Their pass defense is not very good. Let me see. I want to see I'm looking up right now real quick on the yardage standpoint. Actually, surprisingly enough, they give up touchdowns.
Kansas City gives up the 9th most passing yards in the league.
Yeah, but like the real thing here is they give up a lot of passing touchdowns.
All right,
so I feel like
wants to know, would you take 7-1 odds Patrick Mahomes 400 plus?
Truth be told, I've been doing a lot of bets where what I do is if you guys have been on the show before, I love doing like one of my units tend to be $10 or $5. Like my small unit is a $5 bet, and what I'll do is break it down into five $1 increments. So what I'll end up doing with this, I might not even take this 302. I probably will take the 302, and then what I'll do is I'll add the alternate passing yard line, and then I'll do one for 325. One for 350 and then one for 400 because when I add that along with my regular unit size bet and a couple of small ones here, once he hits at 325, I'm kind of free rolling. So the better game he has, the more money the more money I will make. So if I did like here, let's kind of if you look on the screen, you'll see kind of what I do here. We're gonna make a $5 bet on the Patrick Mahomes over. We're just trusting that he's gonna hit it because he hits it. I kind of make my money back when I go $1 here, $1 here, $1 here. I'm getting a 154 bet here. Like as long as he hits his 302, I've kind of broken even on my other bets. The minute he hits 325, I'm making money. Then I'm making more money on the 350 at 255. And then I get an extra $7. So I can have a good let's see. For $8 invested, I'm making 1548. Like I get a really good return on that.
All right. Ryan, what do you got?
This game's gonna be probably just as good as that Seattle game.
Yeah.
Or sorry, not the Seattle game. The
I kind of want to point out I only talked about like my quarterbacks. Like I know that you had some stuff, but this isn't the only thing. There's a lot of overs here in this game, like from a receiving standpoint on both sides of the ball that are really interesting to look at here. So like, sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but I was not done. I like this game. This is my third favorite game of the week. T. Higgins at 64.5, Jamar Chase at 73.5, Travis Kelce 79.5, Juju Smith-Schuster at 53.5, Boyd at 39.5, Scantling at 37.5, and Hayden Hurst at 36.5. Now, there's too many receiving totals, but two of these guys on each team are going to have really good games. If I have to, I'm going to pick two of my favorites on each team, and I'm just going to roll with them. Basically, is how I'm looking at this.
For receiving yards, the ones I'm probably going to bet on is Tyler Boyd at 39.5. We'll go over on that, and probably Juju at 53.5.
That's the one. The Juju one was the one I'm looking at too. Like he had limited time. The one thing I might hold off on Juju because there's no Sky Moore line posted yet, but Sky Moore has been seeing increased use, and his lines are a lot lower. So he's a guy that is worth like targeting in this offense. Tyler Boyd, I think the play here actually would be Jamar Chase because Boyd he hasn't been getting the ball thrown to him the last few weeks, even with Chase not there. With Chase there, he kind of makes me nervous, and maybe this is where he like proves me wrong. But he's got me gun shy, honestly.
Yeah, I like Chase. I like Chase too as well. 73.5 seems kind of low for this game, where the expected totals for quarterbacks are around 300 yards. But instead of doing the Kelce over at almost 80 yards, I think I might put money on him getting 2 touchdowns, actually, at plus 410. I mean, we've seen Kelce get 4 touchdowns in the game and only have 25 yards. So
hey, you guys have seen me post my 1, 2, 3 touchdown bets that I do with Kelce all the time based on matchups, and those have been hitting in at a really good clip. Kelce touchdown bets have made me a good amount of money this year to make up for all the money I've lost in other places.
Yeah, I mean, I could see him getting 2 touchdowns in this game easily.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like a lot of them in this game. Yeah. So,
but I will point out here, the Bengals have only given up 2 touchdowns to tight ends this year. So that's one thing that makes me a little nervous. But also, Kelce's not really a tight end. He's the number 1 receiver there.
Right. He's a superhero.
Yeah. There's a line that's not posted here that if it does post, I want some Sky Moore action this week.
Yeah. So we talked about that earlier. I said that like the Juju line. Yeah.
He's gotten 6 targets in back-to-back weeks. Yeah. Like he's getting looks over the last couple weeks. Like last 2 weeks, he's gotten targeted on 32% of his routes.
And not just that too. It's not like he's getting the situations he's getting him. He's been making big third down catches for this team. Like he's not like he's doing it in a situation where it doesn't matter or garbage time. When the team has needed him to come through the last couple of weeks, Sky Moore's been coming through, and they invested a second-round draft pick in him. So that's like those are the kind of guys like I said with Burks earlier, guys who are getting increased target shares, who the team has invested draft capital on, and who have like those athletic tools. Those are great because you're getting low lines in them because people haven't quite caught up. You want to be betting on Sky Moore while people are still sleeping on Sky Moore.
Right, but they're sleeping on him so much he doesn't have a line. So
he will before the game starts. He's just one of those guys that they haven't done it quite yet.
Are we ready to move on?
I am.
Sure.
I've been waiting all day for Sunday night, boys.
Ooh.
And actually, I'm kind of shocked that the Chiefs Cincinnati game wasn't flexed to Sunday Night Football because the Dallas versus the Colts. Come on.
Oh, you know what it is? I think. Who are the Chiefs playing next week? I think that's what it was.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think the Chiefs games next week is like Buffalo or something like that. That's going to be. They don't want to have too many Chiefs. What?
Also, you have to have NFC East in the Sunday night game as many times as possible, apparently.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, America's team right over here, and I'm talking about the Colts.
All right, so Indianapolis and Jeff Saturday are 10.5-point underdogs here going on the road to Dallas. A Colts upset is plus 410, and the line is 43.5. Waleed, go ahead.
So this Matt Ryan under 213.5, I will absolutely smash. He's going to get 200 yards against Pittsburgh. Are you expecting to believe he's going to get it against Dallas? Are you kidding me? Matt Ryan has been putting up some yards, but I don't think that's happening this game. I mean, I just know I've watched Matt Ryan trying to move around and scramble, and you're going to tell me the way that offensive line is playing that why am I drawing a blank on the best defensive player on the Cowboys?
Micah Parsons.
Micah Parsons. You're going to tell me that Matt Ryan's going to be able to get away from Micah Parsons? Honestly, if I could take an adjusted under at like 150 for Matt Ryan with some positive numbers, I would take it. I am all about the unders on the Colts passing game. Paris Campbell under 37.5. I won't take because the line's too low, but I will take the under Michael Pittman under 60.5. I do not like this matchup at all for him. Like this is going to get real ugly real fast for them. Alec Pierce under 27.5. It's just too low. Like there could be some bullshit like Hail Mary play where he gets that in one go and I won't make that bet. But yeah, this is not a good game for the Colts. Like it's going to get real ugly real fast, and I'm here for it. Honestly, the way they've been playing, the way they've been running that organization. I mean, that last 2 minutes of the Monday night game was some of the most insanely dumb stuff I've ever seen.
Yep.
Like they're channeling Hackett there.
Do you have anything else?
Sorry.
Do you have anything else, Waleed?
No.
All right, Ryan, go ahead.
This is our only game this week with a double-digit point differential at 10.5. So I'm gonna take the under on this game. Surprisingly.
Oh no, that's not. I love that. I love.
Actually, I think that under is a really strong play.
Yeah,
because like in order for them to hit that to hit the over, the Colts will need to score, and I'm not convinced they're going to be able to against Dallas. Like.
Okay.
The only other bet I really like in this game would be Tony Pollard's over at 65.5. It's going to be the Tony Pollard show. They're just going to run it down.
The problem with Zeke, if Zeke was hurt, I'd like him a lot more, but I can't get
Do you
behind
know
it.
though that something interesting? This game has the projected fastest combined pace of play of all the games this week.
Really?
Yep.
Does that make it more likely for an under?
No.
Okay.
But I mean, it's the problem is with the pace of play metric is it's always done from a neutral game script pace of play. So I don't think I don't think the neutral game script is gonna apply for much of this game.
No. I think there's going to be a lot of 3 and outs, a lot of really bad situations for the Colts. I mean, if there was a kicker prop here, I'd probably take the under on the Colts kicker.
Okay. All right. So let's move on. Let's talk about our Monday night game. Tampa Bay 3.5-point home favorites against the Saints. Saints upsets plus 164 and the line's 40.5. Ryan, what do you got?
Not a whole lot. I might take a Chris Olave touchdown plus 220. there's really not any bets up yet for this game.
Yeah, that's the
Right.
problem I'm having right now is there's no player props, so that's where my system really comes into play.
I'll take the Bucks to win. I'll take probably the under. This seems like it's a primetime game. It's going to be kind of close. Both defenses aren't bad, but they're not good. I don't know. I might
So
take the under at 40 and a half.
Well, when prop bets do show, the things that stand out, passing over for Tom Brady, depending on what that line is not bad. Like Tom Brady has been throwing for yards. Like his passing overs have not been bad bets this year. The problem that he's had and the Bucks have had is that they aren't throwing for touchdowns. So his passing over, especially if that line is right around 250, 240, could be good. If it's anything above 250, I'm not touching it probably because the Bucks are so inconsistent. The rushing overs for the Bucks here, like whether it's Rashad White, I should say, or Leonard Fournette, if that line is at like 45 and a half or more, I'm taking the rushing over because they just don't try to run the football. Those are the plays that you can look for from a player prop standpoint that could have some value depending on what those lines are.
Sure.
Okay. I have nothing in this game. All right, so let's go over our stuff.
Yeah. All right.
Ryan, you want to start?
Yeah, we're to go with our. What are we starting with? Top 5 bets of the week,
Sure.
or we're going to start with our parlays?
Sure. I mean, I figure we'll just all go one by one and do all of them.
Oh, perfect. All right.
Okay, so my 5-team parlay for this week: Dallas money line, Kansas City money line, Seattle, Atlanta upset, Miami upset. 5 units at plus 1341 to pay out 67 and some change. My same game parlay was from the Jacksonville game. Once again, it's Lawrence over 247 and a half. Jamal Williams anytime touchdown. Kirk anytime touchdown, and Kirk's over at 65 and a half. My top 5 bets of the week, I got DK at over 63 and a half. Took the Jalen Hurts rushing over at 48 and a half. I took Drake London's over at 35 and a half reception yards. I took a Jamal Williams anytime touchdown, and I took the over in the Jacksonville Detroit game at 51 and a half.
Could you repeat your second one, please?
Second,
I have DK
Jalen
London,
Hurts over
J-Well.
48 and a half rushing.
Yeah,
Wally,
what was that
share
again?
that screen.
Huh? I can't
Share
share
the
the screen.
Oh.
I don't have. I have it on a different computer where I have all the information.
My top 5 bets of the week again were DK Metcalf over 63 and a half. Jalen Hurts rushing over at 48 and a half. Drake London's over at 35 and a half reception yards. Jamal Williams anytime touchdown, and the Jacksonville Detroit game to be over 51 and a half points.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay. I'll go next. Oh, wait. Do your millionaire bet.
You want to do millionaire? So I went ham because I'm trying to become the Duke Count Fuhrer of Gambletonvania again. I took Jameson
Show some
Williams.
respect for Gambley Land. That is what we are called now. You've been
It's actually the Chocolate Mountain in Gambley Land.
Ooh, the Chocolate Mountain.
All right. So Count Chocula, just show some damn respect.
I went Jameson Williams 2+ touchdowns, plus 420.
You mean Jamal Williams?
Or sorry, Jamal Williams. God damn.
I wish it was Jameson Williams.
Is he going to be back this week?
We're supposedly going to get Jameson Williams back this week, and I'll be honest, I want some shares of him in DFS just in case, because I think his price will be cheap, and he's got that, like, he was my favorite receiver in this draft class, so.
Yeah. I hope he plays this week, if not next week, but
it's Jamal Williams.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jamal
Okay.
Williams, 2+ touchdowns.
All right. I'll go next. My game parlay, Kansas City, Dallas, and Minnesota's money lines, and then Jacksonville and Detroit over 51 and a half. That's plus 568. My 2 units in would bring me back 1338 in return. My same game parlay, I'm focusing on the Titans-Eagles game. I'm taking all Philly props, the Philly money line, Hurts over 225 and a half, Devonta Smith over 59 and a half, and A.J. Brown anytime touchdown. 2 units on that at plus 774 would bring me back 1749. My top 5 bets of the week: Jacksonville and Denver over 51 and a half, Total touchdowns between Baltimore and Denver is under 4. Christian Kirk over 5.5 catches.
Love that.
Pittsburgh minus 2.5. And then Christian Watson 50 or more receiving yards.
So wait, I want to say something real quick. Did you have the Minnesota money line here?
Yeah.
Not the Jets? I thought you had the Jets upset on this one, or was it Tony,
Oh, no,
or was it Ryan who had that?
I had the Jets upset.
Oh, okay. I was just kind of curious about that.
Hey, Still You Kill. Also, for the record, I am not betting against 12 p.m. Kirk Cousins. All right.
That's fair. That's fair. But honestly, primetime Kirk Cousins, like the last couple primetime games, not awful, which is kind of surprising me. I don't know. I think we finally figured out the more gold chains he has, the better he does. Like that's been the problem the entire time.
Just so you bettors know, here's some free advice. No team has ever lost to Kirk Cousins and then appeared in the Super Bowl in the same season, just in case you were hoping a Buffalo Super Bowl was coming this year.
I mean, that's interesting.
No.
But if the primetime Kirk curse goes away, maybe that means Buffalo has a chance. Who knows?
There's always an exception to the rule.
My millionaire bet is AJ Brown over at 80.5 receiving yards. All right, Waleed, what do you got?
All right, so I have a couple of things here. I'm kind of sad. I don't like you guys always do it with your parlays money line bets, and I always do player props, but I'm not changing away from that this week. What I'm going to start off here, my same game parlay was also from the, Tony and I have a lot of the same bets in the same game parlay. I got that Eagles Titans game. Jalen Hurts over 225.5 passing yards is such a great, that line is so low for Jalen Hurts. AJ Brown over 80.5, this is his week, which is why I also added the AJ Brown touchdown. I like having that stacked together. I like the Devonta line a lot too, but I just want, if AJ Brown gets that touchdown with those yards, I feel like, when I'm building parlays, the one thing I like to talk about is I want outcomes that are always going to work for each other. The Jalen Hurts and AJ Brown, if AJ Brown's getting 80.5 receiving yards, that means that's Jalen Hurts also threw for 80.5 passing yards. I'm almost a third of the way there. I get the touchdown. And the last thing was that Treylon Burks, and I'm actually going against my system, and I'm just looking at the trends. And Treylon Burks, he's glowing up, man, and I want to be part of that. So those 4 bets, I'm putting 5 units on it here. That's how strongly I feel about it. At plus 842, it's going to get me $42.12. My regular game parlay, I'm doing my millionaire bet here basically with this, which is Christian Kirk at plus 100. That was a spoiler on my millionaire bet. Receiving yards. Kareem Hunt over 31.5 rushing yards, which for some reason is the bet that makes me the most nervous. And an Elijah Moore touchdown at plus 280. 2 units here gives me odds of 3,110. So that's going to get me $62.20, which is a nice little payout. And I really like the outcomes on all of these. These matchups, Elijah Moore and Christian Kirk and Kareem Hunt have some of the best matchups. And those lines are at a nice little spot where I really feel like I can get some value. My top 5 bets of the week, I just went very simple. Christian Kirk over 65.5. I'm not doing the adjusted line here because honestly, there's nothing wrong with just taking a nice safe bet. When I'm making a top 5 bet of the week, I'm using my big unit. I'm putting $10 or more on it because obviously we're still a cheapskate show. When we get more money, when we get our monocles, those units will go up. AJ Brown over 80.5. Tony's millionaire bet, my same game parlay bet, I have to go with it. Kareem Hunt over 31.5. Houston gives up the most rushing yards to anyone. Their run defense is so bad that game should get out of hand enough that Kareem Hunt, even if he doesn't see garbage time, there's a good chance he gets it on a few runs. The Jalen Hurts 225.5 passing yards and Elijah Moore touchdown at plus 280. I will say that I reserve the right to change that to just his over prop, just because I like his over yards a little bit better than I like a touchdown bet. Touchdowns are have a lot more variance, which is why I try to avoid them. But I wanted an Elijah Moore bet, so that's why it's there.
Did you take the over or the under on Hurts 225.5 passing yards?
Over.
Okay, and what was the line for AJ Brown's yards?
80.5.
80.5. Thank you.
Yes. And then my millionaire bet of the week, Christian Kirk at plus 100. Odds of plus 350, like getting over 100 receiving yards. My $18.77 millionaire bet will pay out $60, and that's not right. I thought there was some change on that.
There should be.
Yeah, hold on. Okay, now I have to go back and look at it real
Well,
quick.
you can
Give
fix
the odds.
that. We can fix
Yeah,
that.
we'll fix that in production. But yeah, that's it. And I believe that we're going to see. And the reason I went with the plus total instead of just a regular bet is because Ryan's coming at me here with Jamal Williams 2 touchdown bets. And here in Gambley land, we escalate violence. Like if you come at me, I'm coming at you with bigger guns. Like I'm not going to give up my rule without a fight.
Amen.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so that's all we got for Gambley Land. Let's get in the train, hit the station, and
One last thing before we get there. I just want to point out Jamison Williams, because we were talking about that. 2 touchdown bet plus 2,000. I might just throw a $1 bet on that for fun. Like if he comes back, just to see if he does some shit.
Yeah, right.
all right.
All right.
As we're talking right now, Matthew Stafford's been placed on injured reserve, ending his season.
I
wow.
feel like his season ended like a month and a half ago, if we're
His
being
season
honest.
never started. So
Yeah, that was.
let's take a break, and then we'll do DFS.
Okay.
Yeah, DFS for cheapskates.
Yep.
Okay. Before you go away for your break, just some production notes. I should have told you I'm actually producing today, not just remote producing. So I'm like trying.
We noticed it, and we appreciate it too.
So while I'm gonna make a tips and tricks section on YouTube where I clip stuff from this show, so Waleed, at 1 hour and 4 minutes, you talked about how you bet $5 and $1 increments on Patrick Mahomes rush passing yards at 300,
Yeah.
325, 350. What do you
Yeah.
call that?
I just call it a player stack.
Player stack. Thank you. For the when you start or whatever you do first in the DFS show, do you make a team together or do you make 3 teams separately?
Well, we do a DFS optimizer. If you listen to the show, we'll go through it a little bit. But yeah, we're doing is we're building like core stacks. We're listing players that we want to target in DFS, and then we pretty much put it in a randomizer that'll give us the most of the players that we want in a bunch of random lineups. Because we're putting 150 submissions like for our main slate at a nickel to try to get to give us maximum like opportunities it hits to get a big payday.
Gotcha. So you're making one team, and each position has a series of players.
Something like that.
Okay, I'm just trying to do how I'm going to do the visual. Okay, I'm going to change it to DFS to try and rope people in here. Okay, I'm good.
Okay. And I'm gonna go get some more coffee. I'll be right back.
What's up? I'm still here. People just don't need to see me eat. All right.
Oh, Jack Hughes coming in hot on the bracket challenge. Yeah, I could do international shipping with some sauce. That's cool. That's cool. Oh, Deck, you found a website on the UK that does NFL betting. That's perfect. I was wondering why you're so interested because I'm like, "Yeah, aren't you not able to bet? That's cool. I'm happy to hear it. I'll be back.
Are we like on right now? All right. Betting on the NFL for the first time this week. That's awesome. You know, like we're here for the people, baby. Oh, you're sweet. We're here for the people. I'm pumped to find out that there's a UK website that lets you do it because I was in Scotland and England for like 2 weeks in like 2017, and there were sports everywhere. And it felt so weird to me because it's like, well, yeah, they want like, why wouldn't you be able to bet on foreign sports? I don't know.
Well,
I did want to gamble.
there's that one Russian site that held a whole that held a whole fake Indian cricket league and took bets and made a mint.
Fuck yeah.
It was hilarious.
Took him to Poundland.
They just kept showing. They would get guys in uniforms and have them make highlight clips and give the score, but it didn't exist.
You know, I can see why that would be pointless. Like the money line stuff, I love betting on players from the perspective of the less things that can go wrong, the better. So I'm glad you found one that has the same type of odds and averages. Like we're pumped to see what. And the cool thing about what we do is we're all coming at it from a different perspective and try our best to explain where we're coming from. So you just pick whichever ones you like best. That's what our homie Brian does from the Discord, and you just go with what your gut says. You know, like because we're all approaching it from different ways, and I think that's what makes the show good. And I think my co-hosts who are joining us back up would agree. Like as someone that listens to the show, if you're making bets alongside us, it's like you don't have to bet everything we like. It's just what do you think? What do you agree with? And I love to hear when you make your bets, Deku, feel free to like in the chat let us know like, hey, we liked and in the Discord too. I liked this one and this one. I took this one. I won. I lost. Whatever. And remember that if we got any of them wrong, even if it was Ryan's plays that were wrong, it's Waleed's fault.
I think that you need to show your Fuhrer some respect. What I will say though, here's the thing too. Just because you lose a bet doesn't mean you didn't make a good bet. It's something to remember. It's about process because a lot of the things that we're looking at here, it's about outcomes that'll happen more often than they won't happen. That's what we're looking for when we're saying like it's like what I said with the I keep betting the Patrick Mahomes over passing yards and I just keep hitting it. And like even if I bet it this week and he doesn't get it, that doesn't make it a bad bet because I'm going to win that 2 out of 3 times, which means I'm going to come out ahead in the long term. We're not looking like it's very easy to get like focused on like short-term results, but it's about like the process, making sure you have a good evaluation of what you're doing and making sure that like over the long run, your decision making is going to be right more often than it's not.
And Deku, if you see a line that you like when you're going through your stuff, ask us, and we'll talk about it. Like, there's 5 other people watching. You have our entire attention if you want it.
Yeah.
All right, so let's talk DFS here. We didn't do great last week. The Kickers did not do great last week.
Well, this was probably historically one of the worst kickers performances we've had. I don't even know if Justin Tucker would have saved us. One of the things that really killed us is smaller player pool of kickers combined with just whiffing on our MVPs.
Yeah, and our super flexes were hit or miss. We had some really good lineups. We had good Josh Jacobs ownership because someone here had him as his number 2 play of the week. Just saying.
Should have been your number 1 play apparently. Because
Yeah,
he was
apparently. So let's not focus too much on last week, and let's move on to this week and see what we can do here. So let's start with kickers. Tell me about your kickers, Waleed. Who do we like this week?
And I want to point out here, like as the Fury here, I for the DFS show, I am making an executive decision. I really do want my chancellor here, Tony, to really run this DFS show because he's coming up with some great ideas that I like, and I think you're going to see him throughout the show and really enjoy them.
All right, let's see what we can do. But we're going to start with kickers.
Yep.
So we're staying in your wheelhouse this week, Waleed. So tell me, what are we doing in Tier A this week?
So kickers is a really interesting thing. Let's get into kicker lineups here. We're gonna click up here to tournaments, and there's some honestly Tier A. Tier A, like my system, this is the chalkiest week I've ever seen. I have 4 5-star players here. Like guys, just the offensive and defensive matchups combined for the week. These are like 4 of the smashiest plays. And to be fair, one of them was Tyler Bass, who was kind of a letdown in that regard. He had like 7 or 8. What was this? Was his field goal 40 yards?
Yeah.
Yeah. So he would have had 7 points, which isn't bad. But we're really looking for those double. We're looking for more field goals, less touchdowns, and unfortunately, New England could not stop Josh Allen last week. But the number 1 play of the week here, Harrison Butker. The number and then tied the 3-way tie for second in my 5 stars. Dan Carlson and Justin Tucker.
Okay, so real quick though, Deku's asking in the chat about a weekly prop, one of the specials, the weekly specials. Every team in what would be our 12 o'clock window gets 1 touchdown and 1 field goal.
I mean, honestly,
I don't like it because you've got teams like Houston, Pittsburgh, Denver, Atlanta, Washington, and the Giants all in there. That's something I would avoid.
There are some really bad red zone teams. Like the props I like looking for is like on teams that are likely that have good matchups for touchdowns. Like you can see them on Sleeper where you'll get like what was the bet that you had that came through? 2.5 like extra points or something like that.
Yeah, there's extra points made, and then there's like total kicker points. There's all kinds of stuff. Sleeper.
Like I like honestly the bet that I try to look for is like and I won't find it on FanDuel. I'll see it at MGM. Sometimes it's like 1.5 field goals made is usually the line over or under. Sometimes it goes up to 2.5 depending on the kicker. But if you can get that 1.5 with a good matchup, you just need 2 field goals. That happens a lot. And when the matchup is right, I feel like there's some real good value. I have not been able to maximize my kicker system for sports betting, and I'm trying to figure out a way to do that because I feel like that's where I might actually really be able to start making some money. But I have a feeling that's going to happen next year as I update the system because there's some additions I plan on making.
Okay. All right. So we've got Butker as our Tier A kicker.
Yeah, he's our Tier A kicker. And I want to point, I had some 4-star guys here for and one of them is over here. Jason Myers is a 4-star guy. He just missed that cut for 5-star along with 2 other guys. One of those other guys is in this tier, and I don't think you guys will be surprised at who he is.
It's got to be Suck Up.
It's Suck Up.
It is Suck Up. Ryan Suckup is, I think, the number 2 fantasy kicker in football right now. If he's not, he's definitely top 5. He's Tampa Bay. Like I said, Tom Brady's throwing for yards. He's just not scoring touchdowns, which means they're getting field goals, which means you want Ryan Suckup. Ryan Suckup is kind of quickly becoming a guy that, like, he's almost Nick Folk from last year, except that Nick Folk, Mac Jones was so much worse than Tom Brady. So we got so many more field goals. Now, Tier C here, we got one guy who's a 4-star matchup overall, and
I think you're going Gold or Elliott.
I think you're going Elliott or York.
and you're wrong on all of it. Cairo Santos is the guy that
Really?
it seems to like. Yeah. There's going to be a lot of yardage movement, which I think, based on the Packers' defense, I can see it. I can see them not getting touchdowns and getting field goals against this. I feel good about this, but I will say, the other guy who's just like a point behind him, in this tier, there's only one guy here that I find interesting, and that's Greg Zuerlein against Minnesota, which I
Okay.
think could also be a really interesting play and maybe something we look for at the pivot. There's also some things here in this tier because I think with tier C and tier D, we do want to be more flexible because you talked about Cade York, you talked about Robbie Gold, and who was the other guy you mentioned?
Elliot.
Jake Elliott.
Jake Elliott. Jake Elliott is awful, actually. And the reason I think Jake Elliott usually gets bad rankings is because the Eagles don't actually kick a lot of field goals. They get a lot of extra points, which doesn't really help us with this setup. Like, I want to see, like, let's look at the system real quick to see what it has for the Eagles. But I want to say, like, this matchup here is, yeah, it's like the third worst matchup of the week for kickers.
Okay. All right. So then who do we like in tier D?
All right. Tier D though, we don't have anyone from with an overall weekly matchup ranking. What we do have is the defensive rankings and offensive rankings for the week. And on this one, it's really about the defensive matchups here. There are a couple guys, and I'm very curious, what do you think will be the best defensive matchups of the week before I give the answer? Because I think that's a more fun way of doing it.
I think it's either Sly or Matthew Wright.
And I'm going to tell you right now, you got two of the three. And the third guy here is
Patterson? Patterson?
Patterson is one of the worst matchups of the week, actually. Well, maybe not one of the worst matchups, but it's not a good matchup. But overall, from a kicker standpoint, he's really bad this week. Which is the third guy, Kyrie Fairburn, is what it likes. And I'll tell you right now, I'm vetoing that. I don't want any part of that game.
Yeah.
But when we do, because I think this week we talked about doing an alternate lineup because that's where we really had some of our most success when we were doing these.
Okay.
Right. I mean, we did talk about that, right? Is that something we're into doing?
We can do a tier A and tier B if you want.
Yeah, for the kickers. So the third guy is Kyrie Fairburn, which we're vetoing. But Joey Sly has the best defensive matchup of the week. And also, when I did my article, I think he had the third best schedule rest of season of kickers. And let's be honest, like, Joey Sly's been doing real work. I like, the one thing is I think he's going to be fairly well owned, but I also think Matthew Wright is also going to be fairly well owned. So I don't mind having a share of both of these guys at some point. But I think for this one, Joey Sly is going to be our guy.
Sure.
Okay. So we have
what do we
Butker, Suckup, Santos, and Sly.
Yeah.
What do we want to do for our alternate?
So I guess here's the thing: is we want to talk about how many lineups do we want to set and how many MVPs we want to do, because I don't know that you want to do 8 things in a tournament. Or another thing we can do is we can build a bunch of these guys for head-to-head matchup, because I think one of the things we're really starting to realize too is I think we need to start fading the tournament plays or just being selective of what we're putting in those tournaments and focus more on the head-to-heads, because we're doing much better head-to-head on these kickers, I think, than we are in the tournaments, right?
Yeah, but but we're still gonna play the tournaments because that's where the big cash happens.
Of course.
So how many do I have? I think there's 4 MVPs that we all agree on.
Let me look. Let's see.
Mahomes, Hurts, Burrow, and Herbert.
And you would be absolutely correct. And then I had like, did you say Lawrence there?
No, because you had T-Law and I had Tua, so that's not something we agreed on.
Yeah, so yeah, and I feel like those are the kickers. Yeah, you're right. So we were like Burrow. I want to throw another name out there though that is not on our top 4 list, and I kind of feel like we should all agree on, and that's Justin Fields. Because let's be honest, Justin Fields has been a game breaker.
But the problem is that his game-breaking games were against Detroit and Miami. So I want to temper expectations this week in his first week back without his number 1 wide receiver. Like, I don't know if I want to put him in as a tournament MVP if we're already having alternate lineups for the kickers. You know what I mean?
I can accept that. I can absolutely accept that.
I love him in lineup builds, but I don't love him in MVP builds because I think I think it's dependent on him continuing to break every record with less of an offense surrounding him.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying, but I would like my counterpoint to that would be, it's not like Mooney was doing anything in those games he was blowing up. Like it's rushing and him just being so physically dominant that I think that it doesn't matter who's running casts. But I think also for this, because we have 4 guys we all agree on, I do like limiting our MVPs to 4. So we're going Patrick Mahomes, Jalen Hurts, Joe Burrow, and who's the 4th?
Herbert.
Herbert's. That's right.
So what's our B kicker lineup?
Let me put these A ones in first, and then we will talk about that.
Oh, we're gonna do that on here.
I want to make sure I have them in the system so I know. We're going that real quick. Boom, 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 boom.
So,
and this is going to be much more of a discussion too, which I love.
Okay, real quick, could you state your MVPs again?
Yes, they are Patrick Mahomes, Jalen Hurts,
Herbert,
Joe Burrow,
and Orange Herbert. Yep.
All right, and then we're going to clear this guy out right now. So, and let's talk about it. We already put in Butker, but we have 3 guys here that are 2 of them are 5-star, one of them's a 4-star matchup guy for the week. Dan Carlson, Justin Tucker, Jason Myers. Yeah, it's going to be between those 3, and I'm curious which one you guys think is the best play.
I want to make a case for Myers, just because I feel like Seattle's going to score a lot of points, and they might not need to try in the second half.
Okay. Tony, what do you think?
It's Tucker.
You think it's Tucker?
For the same reasons why I took the under on 4 total touchdowns in this game. Neither team is strong in the red zone, and Denver has this pretty strong red zone defense.
Oh, son of a bitch! I just realized I forgot to grab my dice. And the reason I kind of think I think I'm going to go grab the dice real quick, vamp for a second, because and I'll come back and I'll make my case, but I'm not going to be a tiebreaker because to me, Dan Carlson's out. It's either Tucker or Myers. And I lean towards Myers. And the reason I lean towards Myers is because specifically, I think Justin Tucker is going to be more rostered because he's Justin Tucker. So if Myers has that breakout game, it puts us in a better position to cash like bigger. But having said that, I think leaving it to chance is more fun. So give me 1 second.
So I guess that sounds like we're going to do almost like a pseudo wheel of kickers / guys we like.
I think I'd rather go with Tucker then, honestly, just because of what you said, Tony, about the game script.
I mean, I don't know. It's Justin Tucker. Anytime they're within, the 40-yard line, they can kick a field goal.
Right, that's true. I think let's go with Tucker because he has the ability to make more of those 40, 50-yard field goals, which are obviously
almost 60-yarders sometimes.
Yeah, and those are more points.
Okay, so we can even do the roll. We're just going Tucker?
Right.
Honestly, I'm fine either way. Tucker's chalk, and frankly, I almost want him in here because I wanted him last week, and I didn't push because Dan Carlson has been the best kicker in football over the last 2 years. So it's hard for me to argue against him. And then
let's get to tier B.
Okay, tier B. So tier B is interesting. We got one guy who's got a really solid offensive matchup here. In Cameron Dicker for the Chargers. And then from a defensive matchup standpoint,
what about Graham Gano?
Graham Gano of the Giants is not even on my radar.
Really?
But Brandon McManus is.
Younghoe Koo?
Younghoe Koo, nope. Yeah, actually he is. He's a 4-star guy. Also, so here's the guys that I'll go through the list real quick and say, obviously Suckup was our guy. We're not going to use him here. Dicker's got a 4-star rating from an offensive standpoint, just by virtue of the offense, he should be getting you points. Graham Gano does not make the cut either offensively or defensively. He kind of comes close in both, but he's not he doesn't stand out enough that it makes me want to use him. Atlanta, from a defensive standpoint, is a 4-star matchup. Miami versus San Francisco is just an awful matchup, and I don't want to touch that. McManus has also has a 4-star matchup from a defensive standpoint, and then Greg Joseph is not on the radar at all.
No.
So basically, it's between Cameron Dicker and Brandon McManus, I think.
I say we go Dicker.
Let's do it.
Really? Because I feel like you were the one who thought that this was going to be a field goal game. Like the Broncos do get in that.
But the Broncos are just so awful right now.
Yeah, the Broncos don't get the ball in the red zone.
Right.
And that Vegas defense is pretty bad.
Right.
So yeah, I like Dicker. Yeah, you didn't have to sell me that hard, honestly. Like the point total too is a lot higher for Dicker than it is for.
And honestly, with tier C, I say we go with your gut earlier, Wally, and Zerline.
Well, Zerline was the guy that I said had a strong defensive matchup. It was the second best defensive matchup, but also, actually, is there anyone else here? No, there's no San Francisco. Will Lutz, no New Orleans. Actually, yeah, it's not even a gut thing. He's the only guy outside of Santos who's made this list that's worth a damn. So yeah, let's go Zerline.
Sweet.
And then tier D, we do have a couple options here. I think we said. Well, actually, it's between Kyrie Fairburn and Matthew Wrights, and I think we're all going to agree. Why the fuck would we want to touch any part of Houston's offense, right?
No.
That sounds like a terrible idea, right? We all agree on that, Tony?
Yep. Yeah. Right is right.
Okay, so we're gonna do this. Creating, good God, so many lineups, but I don't mind it because.
So we're gonna do 4 lineups for each.
Yeah, but I think that if we want to, we can. We don't have to put them all in a tournament. I personally am. This is where I wanted to talk about. Do we want to put them all in tournaments, or make all of these cash games and then select our favorites for tournaments, kind of thing? Like, I don't know. How do you want to do it? Like from the show pot standpoint. You are my chancellor. I'm going to defer to you.
For the show pot, I think we enter 8 lineups in the tournament.
My man.
And then we're also going to enter all of those in head-to-head so that we cover our asses in case shit sucks.
And here's one of the things. How did we do on the head-to-heads? Because I didn't actually do head-to-heads personally last week because I was a little low on funds.
We made our money back. What were you saying, Ryan?
Okay.
Are we gonna do a wheel just to see what random happens? We don't have to enter it, but
yeah, we can.
Oh, we're absolutely doing a wheel. The wheel is my favorite part. The wheel has never lost. Has never beaten my system. I like to point that out. So when it comes to random chance, it doesn't matter because I am better than chance. So first things first, we got 4 MVPs to pick from. I'm rolling an 8-sided die here for you guys to see. 1 and 2 is Patrick Mahomes. 3 and 4, Jalen Hurts. 5 and 6, Joe Burrow. 7 and 8 is Justin Herbert. And I want to give myself a little bit of space to let this guy roll. We're going Justin Herbert. All right. So Justin Herbert is our MVP for Tier A. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That makes it easy. We're going 6-sided die here. Let me put these other dice away. Yeah. Dan Carlson, number 1. Justin Tucker, number 2. Jason Myers, number 3. Brett Maher, number 4. Harrison Butker, number 5. And Evan McPherson, number 6. Evan McPherson makes the cuts. I always like it when it's guys I would not have picked. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We have 7 guys here in Tier B. Suckup is 1. Dickers 2. Graham Gano 3. Young Hoku 4. Sanders 5. Jason Sanders. Brandon McManus 6. Greg Joseph 7. 8 will be a reroll. Number 6 is Brandon McManus. So I get a Brandon McManus in here. I kind of like that, right? He was a guy that made our list, but didn't actually make the cuts. Tier C, we got Greg Zerline, number 1. Cade York, number 2. Cairo Santos, number 3. Robbie Gold, number 4. Will Lutz, number 5. Jake Elliott, number 6. Mason Crosby, number 7. And 8 is a reroll. But it doesn't matter because our number one guy is going to be Greg Zerline again. So we get another Greg Zerline. And then number 1, Matthew Wright. Number 2, Chase McLaughlin. Number 3, Kylie Fairburn. Number 4, Mike Badgley. Number 5, Joey Sly. Number 6, Riley Patterson. Number 7, Matt Gay. And number 8, Randy Bullock. Man, there's a lot of guys that I hate on this list here. And the guy that I really did not like here, Randy Bullock, is our guy at 8.
Oh, no.
I want to say, what was he? What was his ranking here? Oh, yeah, my 4th worst ranked kicker. But you know what? Honestly, this is all chance. Like, no matter what's, like, the system is not close to being perfect. There are some games where it hates guys and they just get a bunch of field goals. And then some games it, like, loves guys and they suck. I mean, but it hits more often than it doesn't.
Wally, does your system include, like, how often teams go for it on 4th down?
It doesn't, but that's one of those things that I plan on adding in the offseason because that's one of the things that really does drive me nuts. Like, I want guys who are like, I want the conservative coaches.
Yeah.
All right. So that is the kicker lineup portion of the show. Let us move on to Tony. This is your show, so you tell me what we're moving on to.
All right. So we're going to go talking about our main stacks of players that we like in tournament plays, cash games, regardless. We've created cores now. So we have core players. We have all identified a primary core. And we looked at each other's cores and we made sure that there's no over. When there was, we've pivoted. So we have our little system that we got going on. Hang on, this is great radio.
It's video, you son of a bitch.
Okay, so we're going to do this kind of fantasy draft style here, and we didn't discuss any of this at all, so we're just going to wing it. So the draft order is going to go me, Waleed, and then Ryan. And we're going to talk about our core plays this week that we're going to have in the majority are the stacks that we're building DFS lineups around, because we're going to take these cores and we're going to enter them into Optim. So and these are all main slates, so no super flex, standard stuff. So I'm going to go with my first quarterback, my first play of the week for my core lineups. In every lineup that I have, I want Justin fucking Herbert. Okay. Justin Herbert is the absolute truth. He's going to be quarterback 1 this week, and I want him everywhere I can get him. So that's with my first pick. I'm going to go with Justin Herbert.
So my first pick here, I'm not my stack. I'm going to go a little differently and we're all building stacks differently and what we want because I have a lot of quarterbacks I like. I want to be able to get a chance to pull a bunch of them, and I'm focusing on guys that I love. And the one guy that I love more than anyone here from to stack in the main slate is my boy here. He's a running back. He's got one of the best matchups of the week, and most importantly of all, he's only $7,000, which is going to open up room for more money down the line, and that's going to be David Montgomery.
Okay.
Nice.
Ryan, with your first pick?
A quarterback that I want in a lot of my lineups this week is Joe Burrow. I think that game script is going to favor Cincinnati having to pass more than Kansas City, but even if it's a shootout, both teams are still going to have to pass. So like we said in the gambling show, that's like the highest lines I've seen for 2 quarterbacks from the same game in a long time, almost 300 yards. And so, yeah, I want Joe Burrow.
Okay. So for my second choice, I'm going to go running back here. And Ryan already knows because we built a DFS lineup on the show last night. But one of the guys that I have primed for Explosion Week is Aaron Jones. So that's going to be my core running back. I want him since 2019. Here are his FanDuel points per game against the Bears: 17, 9, 12, 4 injury, 19, 20, and 29. So
dominates the Bears.
At 70, go ahead.
Really quickly, what was the value on Burrow?
8,300.
What was Tony's first pick and for how much?
Tony's first pick was Justin Herbert for 8,100. And what I'm doing here, if you look on the screen, I'm trying to put it up when he's putting up. Oh, I just put Aaron Jones on the wrong guy. I'm trying to show it so we can show our stacks as we're putting him in the system here. So we got Justin Herbert here, and then we got Aaron Jones coming up here.
Deku, that is the quick pick kickers game type for the kickers. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, Aaron Jones is someone I need in every single lineup. All right, Wally, go ahead.
So my number 2 guy here, this is not going to be a surprise to anyone. He's my number 1 receiver of the week, actually. Yeah, technically, he's my number 2 receiver of the week, but I knew that these guys all loved Christian Kirk, so I stole AJ Brown from Tony because I am the king, and I know that's his guy. But AJ Brown is, I think, going to be a monster play this week. I think the touchdowns that Tennessee gives up and AJ Brown's due for that monster. I just want AJ Brown.
All right.
Hell yeah, I agree
Ryan?
with that. My number 2 is a running back. I went with Jamal Williams at 7,500. Like I said, I took him to have 2 touchdowns. I think he's going to be awesome this week in that high-scoring game that we're expecting against Jacksonville.
Okay, so the thing I like about the Jamal Williams play is this is going to be Cincinnati, Kansas City, and then the Jacksonville Detroit game are going to be the highest owned games in DFS this week. But
right.
I think Jamal Williams is such a good pivot because I think he's going to be the lowest owned player in that game.
You think it's going to be like Amon-Ra more?
Well, I think
Amon-Ra, Zay Jones, and Christian Kirk.
And I also think we're going to see a little bit more DeAndre Swift. We're hearing reports that he's a lot healthier, and he's 1,100 cheaper. So you'll see pivots, I think, more from people who are trying to save money into running back group from Jamal Williams and think, you know what, $1,100, I get DeAndre Swift. And the reason I think that is wrong is because Jamal Williams leads the NFL in touchdowns.
Right.
DFS, you lose touchdowns. Don't overthink it. Don't be cute.
Right, and not only that, it's historically proven this year on the season that they love Jamal Williams when they get in between the 5 and 10 yard line in the red zone.
Yeah, his red zone carries are among the best in the NFL, and they get in the red zone a lot because Detroit has one of the more explosive offenses in football. Like Jamal Williams at 7,500 is great value.
He leads the NFL in touches inside the 5.
Yes.
And like you can get Swift, and Swift might put up 125 total, but when that ball gets inside the 5 yard line, he doesn't touch it. All right, so my next pick, I'm actually kind of stacking a little bit here, and I'm gonna stack Packers players here. My original pick was Christian Kirk, but Ryan has Christian Kirk, and I want to honor my friend, so I'm pivoting to Christian Watson, who was one of my favorite plays of the week this week. Christian Watson is going to feast on a Bears secondary that can't stop anybody.
And I want to kind of point out here, let's look at his game log over the last few weeks here. Obviously, he had that 3 touchdown game where he had 30.7 points. Then against Tennessee, he had a 2 touchdown game with 19.1 points. Last week, he only had 1 touchdown, but he also had 4 catches for 110 yards, 30.7, 19.1, 19 points, in only 6,500. Christian Watson has been blowing the fuck up, and I want as many parts of him as possible. Christian Watson is basically, until you don't do it, I'm gonna assume you're gonna keep doing it at this point.
Right.
When you're what is it? I think the fantasy footballers call it NBA jam rules. Like once you're on fire, you just keep going
until you miss.
Yeah, until you miss, you keep going.
All right, so Waleed, who's your third stack player?
Well, I definitely talked about this guy a lot. And this is going to be a surprise to no one. I could not get a receiving line on him, but I absolutely love his matchup this week. As Tony mentioned, the fifth most fantasy points given up to the slot by the Vikings. Elijah Moore, 5,700. I'm taking a nice little bit of a discount. The reason I went with David Montgomery over guys like Josh Jacobs and Travis Etienne is because Montgomery had the best matchup for his value. Like when I'm building the stack, that's what I'm trying to do here is get these great matchups thrown in. The only elite guy you're going to see me have here is AJ Brown.
Okay. Ryan?
So my third player, I'm going with Burrow, or I'm pairing with Burrow. I'm going Jamar Chase. He's expected to play. I don't think there's any question that he's not going to. So
And on the off chance he doesn't, you're just going to pivot to Higgins, I assume, right?
Probably, yeah. I mean, I have a cheap pivot to Boyd, but
yeah,
you probably put in Higgins, as my main stack, yeah.
I mean, the way Higgins has been going the last couple of weeks, like, I'm going to just pull that up real quick. Hard not to like 19 and a half, 19.3, 20.9. Like he's only failed to in his last 5 games. His worst game is 9.5 fantasy points. Every other time he's had double digits or more, which is solid.
Right.
Although for his price, we want a little bit more than just barely double digits, obviously.
Right. And we're expecting the game script for this,
especially against the Chiefs secondary that gives up a lot of points.
Awesome. So, yeah, Jamar Chase.
Okay. I went tight end here, and I'm going to go with George Kittle on a bounce back week.
I love this matchup.
Last week, George Kittle was a little overpriced everywhere because he had 2 touchdowns the week before.
We told you to take that under on him. We told you to fade Kittle last week. So if you listen to us, you're happy.
And so I think that he's a little cheaper this week than he should be. Miami is god awful at defending the tight ends.
Yes, they are.
George Kittle is an elite tight end. They're going to get him the ball in a game that should feature a lot of scoring. My 4th core player is.
Say it again. You cut out.
Right? Oh, no.
Yeah.
Sorry, my 4th core player is George Kittle.
Oh, 6,200. Gotcha.
Hold on, dude. I was pulling something up here for this.
Wally, tell me who's next.
I'm going to tell you who's next, but I kind of wanted to point something out about the Miami Dolphins gave up the 3rd most fantasy points to opposing tight ends. They are 6th in receiving yards. They give up the 2nd most receptions, though, and they go up the 3rd most touchdowns. So George Kittle here is an absolutely fantastic smash play. My tight end isn't quite George Kittle-esque level, but the matchup here is really fantastic, and I really like the price here. Where are you here? Did I not go? Oh, I haven't gone far. I haven't gone down far enough for this. Evan Ingram against Detroit at 4,800. The Lions. This is a really juicy matchup. The team who also gives up the 3rd most touchdowns to opposing tight ends, the Lions. But instead of spending the 6,300 or 6,200 on Kittle, I'm getting him at 4,800. I like his chances of at least getting a touchdown. He should get some yards. He should have some value, and this is going to free up money for these other spots to fill up and get some really good value.
Okay. And then Ryan?
My 4th player, Christian Kirk. That's 7,500.
The guy we all wish we could have in our lineups.
Right.
So
we should all have him in our stacks.
All right. Yeah, there's nothing. We went off on Christian Kirk for about 20 minutes earlier. So the last thing I want for my lineups is I want to pay down as much as humanly possible at tight end so that I can fill out the rest of my lineup with good players. So I went as down far as I could, and I took Kansas City's defense.
Yeah. Kansas City's defense, really interesting. Where is that? That's $3,800 in value. I like it. Because so right now, when we look at Tony's lineup here, you got Herbert, you got Aaron Jones, Christian Watson, George Kittle, and the Kansas City Chiefs. You got some of your favorite players at all these positions. He's also now got $7,000 to spend on positions at running back, his 2 wide receivers, and flex. And I kind of want to just do a quick look over here. Some of those $7,000 guys that he can get, Pacheco, like Montgomery, I don't know, Jeff Wilson, Gus Edwards, Brian, Damian Pierce, who might actually be a really fantastic value
Damian
play.
Pierce is one of my favorite plays this week.
Yeah.
Under 7,000.
Yeah,
so
because
I could go with the Damian Pierce and then pay up for a DK Metcalf or an AJ Brown.
But I also think one of the more interesting things here too is some of these receivers in that $7,000 range that he can have. Juju Smith-Schuster, Devonta Smith, George Pickens, Brandon Ayuk, Garrett Wilson. Like, there's some great value that he has, and he's going to get discounts on them. Which means he'll hopefully be able to get some better value at wide receiver to pay up at running back. And really, like, hopefully the way the stacks will work, he's got a nice core that can be built on.
Thanks. Good
My
luck.
thing, like because I went so cheap on a lot of my other guys for defense, I just paid up a little bit. The Rams give up the most fantasy points to opposing defenses, and you know what? Why don't we just pull up that graphic again for you guys so you can see scoreless in Seattle. I'm all about the Seattle Seahawks defense here, and I put them in here. And what I love about this stack here is it's going to give us flexibility to get a bunch of the guys we like when we do our when we run our optimizer. I have $7,400 to spend at each position. That is a that's a good chunk of change. Especially considering I don't mind going cheaper at that wide receiver flex spot to really pay up for that quarterback running back in some of these stacks. So I want some variety. I want to have this stack with some Patrick Mahomes, some Jalen Hurts, some Justin Fields, some Joe Burrow, some Justin Herberts. Like, and I get some of those guys. It's not going to hurt me as much to put those guys in there because of how much money I have built into this.
All right, Ryan, give us your last one.
My last guy went cheap, to kind of keep with the same thing, so allow the optimizer to put in some better budget guys. I went with Drake London. I think he's gonna have a pretty good week this week.
And I want to point out, you might look at the screen and see he's only got $54.75 to spend on his additional players. But the thing that is, like, that number is going to come up a lot because the defense and tight end hasn't been like the defense. The most expensive defense he can get is the Browns, and it just gets cheaper and cheaper. There's a lot of $4,000 options. Like, let's say, for example, the Giants defense is what's put in here. That number shoots up almost to 6,000. Now, let's say we go for one of the more average tight ends. Who's the guy that we were talking about? I like Gerald Everett, I've said. 5,400. Now, all of a sudden, he's got 6,250 to go for that last running back and flex spot. Like, it looks like he doesn't have a lot of money, but that's because he built his core around, like, frankly, position